Winter in Chicago brings a specific kind of physical punishment. The wind rolls off Lake Michigan, dropping temperatures well below zero and turning the streets into a frozen endurance test for anyone caught outside. But for 72-year-old Robert and his golden retriever Max, the weather barely registered. These two had operated as a single unit for nearly a decade. Every morning, they walked the exact same route. They would navigate the slush and the dense crowds near the Chicago Theater, moving at their own steady, synchronized pace. They didn't need to communicate with verbal commands. Their relationship operated entirely on quiet proximity, a biological and emotional tie built on simply existing next to one another. That rhythm broke on a freezing Tuesday morning. Without warning, Robert collapsed onto the icy sidewalk. The human world immediately took over. Passers-by rushed in, calling 911, and within minutes, the rigid, high-speed machinery of emergency response swept Robert away. Max tried to follow, but he hit a permanent physical wall at the University of Chicago hospitals. Medical protocols are absolute, and the imposing concrete doors shut tight, locking the dog outside. Neighbors who recognized Max tried to intervene. They brought leashes, attempting to coax him away from the entrance and back to the warmth and normalcy of his own house. The medical system had successfully secured the patient. But while a hospital can process a human being, it cannot mandate the end of a 10-year promise. The next morning, as a frantic rotation of doctors and nurses worked to stabilize Robert inside, hospital staff found Max sitting quietly near the main entrance. Over the next few days, the environment turned actively hostile. Freezing rain gave way to biting sub-zero winds sweeping relentlessly across the concrete drop-off zones. The hospital ecosystem tried to adapt him. Nurses started bringing down foil-wrapped food from the cafeteria, and security guards left out heavy plastic bowls of water. Max largely ignored them. He rejected the food and refused to seek shelter, maintaining a single, uninterrupted line of sight on the sliding glass doors. People naturally began to document the anomaly. Visitors pulled out their phones, snapping photos and translating this raw display of animal endurance into digital content. Everyone around him was reacting, rushing, and adapting to the harsh conditions. Max operated entirely outside that complexity, stripped down to a solitary, static purpose. Online, the physical vigil quickly morphed into a global narrative. Dubbed the waiting dog, Max's image was pushed onto millions of screens, generating massive engagement. But digital attention is fleeting. The internet rapidly consumes emotional stories, processes the initial rush of empathy, and then immediately scrolls to the next piece of entertainment. While the internet moved on, Max remained anchored to the pavement. As days 5 and 6 dragged on, his reality consisted entirely of plunging temperatures and ice accumulating on his fur. Millions of people were moved to tears by a photograph on their phones. Yet only the animals sitting in the freezing rain possessed the actual capacity to endure that level of devotion in the physical world. On the morning of the 7th day, the automatic doors at the hospital entrance finally slid open and stayed open. Robert stepped outside. He was pale, moving slowly, and leaning heavily on a nurse, visibly weakened by a week of intense medical care. For a fraction of a second, Max remained perfectly still. Then he recognized his owner. The reunion was explosive. Max bounded across the pavement, burying his head in Robert's arms and crying out with joy. All professional boundaries dissolved as the nurses and security guards openly wept and applauded. The viral fame meant nothing to Max. He stayed because for 10 years, Robert had been his entire world, and a week of freezing rain wasn't enough to change that. A bystander caught the moment on camera, and within hours, the reunion video had accumulated millions of views across the globe. Why did this specific instance of animal behavior cut so cleanly through the cynical, endless noise of the modern internet? Human systems are built on layers of social rules, fluctuating markets, and shifting schedules. But a dog's loyalty lacks that complexity. It is a single, direct line between 2 points, an unwavering commitment that doesn't calculate risk or wait for permission from the environment. They do not calculate the social cost of standing in the rain. When you earn their trust, they stay anchored to you, completely ignoring the chaos of the human world around them. In a society obsessed with complex solutions and constant movement, true love is remarkably simple. It is the quiet willingness to sit patiently at a locked door, no matter how long the winter lasts.